In a tranquil Californian suburb, life moved at a gentle, predictable pace. Neighbors exchanged friendly greetings on their morning walks, children played joyfully in the sun-soaked parks, and the community felt a sense of safety and togetherness. Among the residents of this seemingly idyllic town was a dedicated law enforcement officer, known for his unwavering commitment to his job and the protection of those around him. His career was marked by commendations and respect from both his colleagues and the community he served. This officer's personal life appeared just as stable and fulfilling. He was married to his high school sweetheart, a woman who had been by his side through the many challenges and triumphs of his demanding career. Together, they had built a life that, on the surface, seemed enviable. They attended community events, volunteered at local charities, and were often seen enjoying the simple pleasures of suburban life. However, beneath this facade of normalcy, a complex and dangerous web of deception was silently unfolding, threatening to unravel the very fabric of the cop's seemingly perfect life. An affair, conducted in secrecy and shadows, introduced a volatile mix of emotions and hidden truths that would lead to devastating consequences. The woman involved, who would later become pregnant, harbored secrets that could potentially destroy the cop's carefully constructed world. The fateful day arrived when the Sidechick, driven by desperation or perhaps a sense of justice, decided to reveal the affair to the cop's wife. This revelation set off a chain of events that would spiral out of control, culminating in a confrontation filled with raw emotion and simmering tension. As tempers flared and accusations were hurled, the situation escalated to a point of no return. In a moment of rage, the cop committed an act so brutal and shocking that it left the entire community in disbelief and horror. As we piece together the details of this harrowing case, we uncover a chilling narrative of betrayal, desperation, and ultimately, a tragic end. Through meticulous investigation and the voices of those closest to the victims, we will explore the intricate dynamics and hidden motives that culminated in a loss that no one saw coming. This is the story of how one man's actions, driven by fear, anger, and a desperate need to protect his secrets, led to the untimely death of his pregnant sidechick, forever altering the lives of those involved. Join us as we unravel the events leading up to that dreadful moment, shedding light on the hidden truths and dark decisions that transformed a seemingly ordinary life into a nightmare. This is not just a tale of crime, it is a profound exploration of human nature, the complexities of relationships, and the devastating impact of choices made in the shadows. Nestled in the heart of California, the town of Meadowbrook was a picture of suburban bliss. Tree-lined streets, well-manicured lawns, and friendly neighbors defined this close-knit community. It was the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and the local coffee shop buzzed with the latest gossip and news. Meadowbrook was home to hard-working families, retirees enjoying their golden years, and young couples starting new chapters of their lives. It was a town where safety was a given and crime was a rarity. The community was known for its strong sense of camaraderie. Annual events such as the summer fair, holiday parades, and charity runs brought residents together, fostering a deep sense of belonging. Parents felt comfortable letting their children play outside, and doors were often left unlocked, a testament to the trust and security that permeated Meadowbrook. Amidst this idyllic setting lived a respected law enforcement officer, a man who had dedicated his life to maintaining the peace and safety of his beloved town. The cop's life, career, and relationship with his wife. Officer Daniel Carter was a familiar face in Meadowbrook. With over 2 decades of service, he was a pillar of the community and a paragon of dedication. His uniform was a symbol of trust, and his presence provided a sense of security to the town's residents. Daniel's career was distinguished by numerous commendations and accolades, highlighting his unwavering commitment to upholding the law and protecting the community. At home, Daniel's life appeared equally stable and fulfilling. He was married to his high school sweetheart, Emily, a woman who had stood by him through the highs and lows of his demanding career. Emily was well liked in the community, known for her involvement in local charities and her warm, welcoming demeanor. Together, Daniel and Emily presented a picture of marital bliss, a couple deeply in love and supportive of each other's endeavors. They attended town events together, hosted neighborhood gatherings, and were often seen enjoying peaceful moments in their well-kept garden. However, behind closed doors, the strains of Daniel's job and the pressures of life began to take their toll on the couple. Emily's desire for a child had led to tensions, as Daniel's demanding schedule left little time for family planning. Despite these challenges, they maintained a united front, their love for each other seemingly unshakable. The Sidechick, how they met, their affair, and her pregnancy. In the shadows of Daniel's seemingly perfect life, an affair was brewing, an affair that would ultimately lead to tragedy. Enter Sarah Mitchell, a young woman with a troubled past and an uncertain future. Sarah had moved to Meadowbrook seeking a fresh start, hoping to leave behind the tumultuous events that had plagued her in her previous life. She found solace in the town's peaceful atmosphere and took on a job at a local diner. Daniel and Sarah's paths crossed one fateful evening when Daniel stopped by the diner for a late-night meal. Sarah's charm and vulnerability caught his attention, and what began as casual conversation soon blossomed into something deeper. They confided in each other, sharing their struggles and desires. For Daniel, Sarah represented an escape from the pressures of his life, a chance to feel understood and appreciated in ways he hadn't felt in years. Their affair intensified over the months, with secret meetings and stolen moments becoming a regular part of their lives. Sarah's growing affection for Daniel was complicated by a shocking revelation: she was pregnant. The news of her pregnancy added a new layer of complexity to their already tangled relationship. Sarah envisioned a future where Daniel would leave his wife and start a new life with her and their unborn child. As the pregnancy progressed, Sarah's expectations clashed with the reality of Daniel's life. Torn between his duty to his wife and his growing attachment to Sarah, Daniel found himself in an increasingly precarious situation. The pressure mounted as Sarah demanded that Daniel come clean to his wife and make a choice. The thought of his affair being exposed and the potential fallout weighed heavily on Daniel, pushing him to the brink of desperation. The stage was set for a confrontation that would change the lives of everyone involved. As emotions ran high and tensions lead up to the crime, the revelation. The tension had been building for weeks. Sarah, the pregnant Sidechick, had grown increasingly frustrated with Daniel's reluctance to leave his wife, Emily. She felt trapped and desperate, her dreams of a new life with Daniel slipping away with each passing day. The weight of her secret was becoming unbearable, and she knew she had to take drastic action. One evening, Sarah made a fateful decision. She would confront Emily and reveal the affair, hoping that the truth would force Daniel to make a choice. With her heart pounding and hands trembling, Sarah dialed Emily's number. The conversation was brief but devastating. Emily listened in stunned silence as Sarah laid bare the details of her relationship with Daniel and the fact that she was carrying his child. Emily's world shattered in an instant. The betrayal cut deep, and the pain was almost too much to bear. She confronted Daniel as soon as he walked through the door, her voice shaking with anger and hurt. The revelation ignited a fierce argument, with accusations and denials flying back and forth. Daniel's carefully constructed facade was crumbling, and he felt the walls closing in around him. Emotional tension and confrontation. The confrontation between Daniel, Emily, and Sarah was inevitable. Emily demanded that Daniel face Sarah and take responsibility for his actions. Reluctantly, Daniel agreed to meet Sarah at a secluded spot, hoping to find a way to defuse the situation. The three of them met in a quiet, dimly lit park on the outskirts of town. The atmosphere was charged with tension, and the air felt heavy with unspoken words. Emily's eyes were filled with a mix of anger and sorrow, while Sarah's expression was one of desperation and determination. Daniel stood between them, torn and conflicted, his mind racing with thoughts of how to salvage the situation. As the conversation began, emotions quickly escalated. Sarah pleaded with Daniel to leave Emily and start a new life with her and their unborn child. Emily, on the other hand, demanded answers and accountability. The argument grew more heated, voices rising and tempers flaring. The once peaceful park now echoed with the sounds of their confrontation. The crime, a moment of rage. In the midst of the chaos, Daniel's fear and frustration reached a boiling point. The pressure of the situation overwhelmed him, and he felt trapped with no way out. In a moment of blind rage, he pulled out a knife he had concealed in his jacket. The sight of the weapon sent a shockwave through both women, their eyes widening in horror. Before anyone could react, Daniel lunged at Sarah, the blade flashing in the dim light. The first stab was swift and brutal, piercing her abdomen. Sarah gasped in pain, her hands instinctively moving to protect her unborn child. But Daniel's rage was unrelenting. He continued to stab her, each thrust fueled by a mix of anger, fear, and desperation. Emily watched in stunned disbelief, her mind struggling to process the horrific scene unfolding before her. She screamed for Daniel to stop, but her pleas fell on deaf ears. The park, once a place of tranquility, was now a scene of unimaginable violence. Sarah's cries of pain grew weaker with each passing moment until they finally ceased altogether. As the reality of his actions set in, Daniel dropped the bloodied knife and stumbled back, his chest heaving with heavy breaths. The gravity of what he had done began to sink in, and a wave of panic washed over him. Emily, still in shock, rushed to Sarah's side, but it was too late. The life had already drained from her eyes, and the park fell silent once more. Immediate aftermath and initial reactions. The immediate aftermath of the crime was a blur of chaos and confusion. Emily, her hands trembling and covered in blood, called 911, her voice barely coherent as she tried to explain what had happened. The dispatcher, sensing the urgency, sent emergency responders to the scene. Paramedics arrived within minutes, but there was nothing they could do for Sarah. She was pronounced dead at the scene, her unborn child lost along with her. The police quickly secured the area, cordoning off the park and beginning their investigation. Daniel was taken into custody, his once respected status as a law enforcement officer now shattered by his heinous act. News of the crime spread rapidly through Meadowbrook, leaving the community in a state of shock and disbelief. Neighbors who had once admired Daniel now struggled to reconcile the man they thought they knew with the brutal killer he had become. Emily, devastated by the betrayal and loss, found herself grappling with a whirlwind of emotions, grief, anger, and a profound sense of betrayal. As the investigation unfolded, the details of the affair and the events leading up to the crime began to emerge. The community, once united by trust and camaraderie, was now divided by the shocking revelation. The crime had left an indelible mark on Meadowbrook, forever altering the lives of those involved and casting a long shadow over the town. Evidence, witness statements, forensic findings, and the cops' behavior. The investigation into the tragic murder began almost immediately. The park, once a serene haven, had been transformed into a bustling crime scene, with yellow tape cordoning off the area and officers meticulously combing through the evidence. The first step for the detectives was to gather witness statements and forensic findings to piece together the events of that fateful evening. Witnesses from nearby houses reported hearing raised voices and screams coming from the park. Several residents mentioned seeing a distressed woman running towards the scene, presumably Emily, whose frantic 911 call had summoned the police. Her account of the events provided crucial insight into the emotional confrontation that had led to the crime. Forensic experts examined the scene with painstaking precision. The blood-stained ground and the discarded knife offered vital clues. Fingerprints on the weapon matched those of Daniel Carter, the respected cop whose actions had shocked the community. Further analysis revealed traces of Sarah's blood on Daniel's clothing, corroborating the witness accounts and forensic evidence. Daniel's behavior during and after the crime was also scrutinized. His initial shock and subsequent panic were captured on police body cameras, painting a vivid picture of a man grappling with the gravity of his actions. In custody, Daniel oscillated between bouts of silence and emotional outbursts, his demeanor reflecting the inner turmoil he was experiencing. Suspect profiles, the cop's motive, actions, and attempts to cover up. As the investigation progressed, detectives delved into Daniel's background and motives. They discovered that Daniel had been leading a double life, balancing his duties as a law enforcement officer with the secret affair he had been conducting with Sarah. The affair had begun innocently enough, but as it intensified, so did the stakes. Sarah's pregnancy had complicated matters, introducing a new layer of pressure and fear for Daniel. Detectives uncovered a series of text messages and emails between Daniel and Sarah, revealing the extent of their relationship and the emotional strain it had placed on both parties. Sarah had repeatedly urged Daniel to leave his wife and start anew, while Daniel had expressed his hesitation and fear of the consequences. The final messages exchanged between them painted a picture of desperation, with Sarah threatening to expose the affair to Emily if Daniel didn't take action. Daniel's attempts to cover up the crime were also brought to light. After the stabbing, he had made a feeble attempt to dispose of the weapon, wiping it down and tossing it into the bushes. However, his actions were hastily executed, leaving behind clear evidence that linked him to the crime. The forensic team recovered the knife with his fingerprints still intact, and the trail of blood leading from the crime scene to his car provided further damning evidence. Expert analysis and theories on why the cop committed the crime. To gain a deeper understanding of the psychological factors that drove Daniel to commit such a heinous act, detectives consulted with experts in criminology and psychology. Dr. Rebecca Hayes, a renowned forensic psychologist, offered insights into the mind of a man pushed to the brink by the pressures of his double life. Daniel Carter was living under immense stress, Dr. Hayes explained. He was trying to juggle his responsibilities as a respected law enforcement officer, maintain a facade of a happy marriage, and navigate the complexities of a secret affair. The news of Sarah's pregnancy and her ultimatum to reveal the affair likely triggered a profound sense of fear and desperation in him. He saw his carefully constructed life crumbling around him and reacted in a moment of blind rage. Experts also theorized about the possible motives behind Daniel's actions. Some suggested that he may have viewed Sarah's pregnancy as a threat to his career and reputation, driving him to take drastic measures to protect himself. Others speculated that the emotional turmoil of the confrontation had clouded his judgment, leading to an impulsive and violent response. The investigation also considered the broader implications of Daniel's crime. It raised questions about the psychological toll of living a double life and the pressures faced by individuals in high-stress professions like law enforcement. The case became a focal point for discussions on mental health, ethics, and the consequences of unchecked emotions. Twists and unexpected developments in the case. Just when it seemed that the case was straightforward, a series of unexpected developments added new layers of complexity. Investigators discovered that Sarah had confided in a close friend about her fears and frustrations in the days leading up to the crime. This friend, who wished to remain anonymous, provided crucial information about Sarah's state of mind and her intentions to reveal the affair to Emily. Additionally, a neighbor came forward with surveillance footage that captured part of the confrontation in the park. The grainy footage showed the initial argument and the moment Daniel brandished the knife, providing visual evidence that corroborated the witness statements and forensic findings. Another twist emerged when detectives uncovered evidence that Daniel had sought legal advice on divorce proceedings just days before the crime. This revelation suggested that he had been considering ending his marriage, adding a new dimension to his motive and state of mind. The culmination of these findings painted a complex and multifaceted picture of the crime. It was not just a simple case of infidelity and violence, it was a tragic story of love, betrayal, fear, and desperation, set against the backdrop of a seemingly idyllic suburban town. As the investigation drew to a close, the community of Meadowbrook grappled with the profound impact of the crime, reflecting on the hidden darkness that had lurked beneath the surface of their everyday lives. Personal stories of the victims and their families. As we delve deeper into this tragic tale, it's important to remember the human lives affected by this crime. Sarah Mitchell was more than just a name in a police report. She was a young woman with dreams, hopes, and a bright future ahead of her. She had moved to Meadowbrook seeking a fresh start, hoping to leave behind the struggles of her past. Sarah's friends described her as kind-hearted, resilient, and always willing to lend a helping hand. Her unexpected pregnancy had brought a mix of emotions, joy, fear, and uncertainty about what the future held. Sarah's family was devastated by her untimely death. Her mother, Margaret, tearfully recounted the last conversation she had with her daughter, filled with excitement and anticipation for the baby. Margaret's heartache was compounded by the loss of her grandchild, a life that had been cruelly cut short. The Mitchell family struggled to come to terms with the senseless violence that had robbed them of their beloved daughter and sister. Emily Carter, the cop's wife, was also deeply affected by the tragedy. The betrayal she felt was unimaginable. Her husband, the man she had loved and trusted, had been living a double life. The revelation of the affair and the brutal murder left her reeling, grappling with feelings of anger, sorrow, and confusion. Emily's life was forever altered by the events that unfolded, leaving her to pick up the pieces and find a way to move forward. Emotional impact on the community and those involved. The ripple effect of the crime extended beyond the immediate families, touching the entire Meadowbrook community. Neighbors and friends who had once admired Daniel for his dedication and service now found themselves grappling with a profound sense of betrayal. The town, known for its safety and close-knit atmosphere, was shaken to its core by the brutal act of violence that had occurred in their midst. Local businesses and community leaders organized vigils and support groups to help residents process their grief and shock. The park where the crime had taken place was transformed into a memorial site, with flowers, candles, and heartfelt messages left by those who mourned the loss of Sarah and her unborn child. The community's collective grief was palpable, as they struggled to come to terms with the darkness that had been hidden beneath their seemingly idyllic suburban life. The police department, too, was deeply affected by the crime. Daniel's colleagues, who had once considered him a trusted friend and partner, now found themselves questioning their own judgment and the integrity of their profession. The department faced increased scrutiny from the public and the media, as they worked to restore trust and ensure that justice was served. As we continue to unravel the details of this harrowing case, the tension remains high. The community's demand for answers and justice grew louder with each passing day. The investigation took unexpected turns, revealing new pieces of evidence that shed light on the motives and actions of those involved. The sense of anticipation and uncertainty kept everyone on edge, as they awaited the outcome of the trial and the resolution of expert opinions, insights from detectives, psychologists, and criminologists. To gain a deeper understanding of the crime, we turn to the insights of experts in the fields of law enforcement, psychology, and criminology. Detective Mark Johnson, who led the investigation, provided a detailed account of the evidence and the challenges they faced in piecing together the events of that fateful night. "It was one of the most complex cases I've ever worked on," Johnson admitted. The emotions involved, the hidden motives, and the sheer brutality of the crime made it a difficult puzzle to solve. Forensic psychologist Dr. Rebecca Hayes offered a glimpse into the psychological factors that may have driven Daniel to commit such a violent act. Daniel was living under immense pressure, Dr. Hayes explained. The fear of losing everything he had built, his career, his marriage, his reputation, likely pushed him to a breaking point. When Sarah threatened to expose the affair, it triggered a desperate and violent response. Criminologist Dr. Anthony Miller provided additional context on the broader implications of the case. This crime highlights the dangers of living a double life and the psychological toll it can take on an individual. It also raises important questions about the mental health and well-being of those in high-stress professions like law enforcement. Understanding these factors is crucial in preventing similar tragedies in the future. Different theories and possible motives behind the crime. As we analyze the details of the case, several theories emerge regarding Daniel's motives and state of mind. One theory suggests that Daniel saw Sarah's pregnancy as a direct threat to his carefully constructed life. The fear of his affair being exposed and the potential fallout, both personally and professionally, may have driven him to take drastic measures to protect himself. Another theory posits that the emotional turmoil of the confrontation with Sarah and Emily clouded Daniel's judgment, leading to an impulsive and violent response. The intense emotions and the pressure of the moment may have overwhelmed him, resulting in a tragic and irreversible decision. A third theory explores the possibility that Daniel's actions were driven by a combination of factors: fear, desperation, and a misguided sense of control. The complex dynamics of the affair, coupled with the stress of his job and the expectations placed upon him, created a perfect storm that culminated in the horrific crime. Speculating on unanswered questions. Despite the extensive investigation and the insights provided by experts, several unanswered questions remain. What exactly was going through Daniel's mind in the moments leading up to the crime? Could there have been any warning signs that were missed by those around him? And, perhaps most hauntingly, could this tragedy have been prevented? As we continue to explore these questions, we are reminded of the profound impact that choices and actions can have on the lives of others. The story of Daniel, Sarah, and Emily serves as a stark reminder of the fragility of human relationships and the devastating consequences of deception and betrayal. How the case was solved: arrest, trial, and sentencing. The resolution of this harrowing case began with the arrest of Daniel Carter at the scene of the crime. The overwhelming evidence collected by the investigators left no doubt about his guilt. His fingerprints on the knife, the bloodstains on his clothes, and the witness accounts painted a clear picture of the events that had unfolded. Daniel was taken into custody without resistance, his face a mask of shock and remorse. The trial that followed was a significant event in Meadowbrook, drawing attention from the media and the community. The courtroom was filled with spectators, each eager to see justice served. The prosecution presented a meticulously constructed case, detailing the affair, the emotional confrontation, and the brutal crime. They called upon witnesses, including Emily and the forensic experts, to testify about the evidence and the impact of the crime. The defense attempted to paint a picture of a man driven to the brink by extraordinary circumstances, arguing that Daniel's actions were the result of intense emotional pressure and desperation. They called upon character witnesses to vouch for Daniel's integrity and dedication to his profession, hoping to evoke sympathy from the jury. However, the evidence was irrefutable. The jury deliberated for several hours before returning with a unanimous verdict: guilty of murder. The judge, recognizing the gravity of the crime and the need for justice, handed down a severe sentence. Daniel Carter was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, ensuring that he would never again pose a threat to society. Closure and open questions. As the courtroom emptied and the sentence was carried out, the community of Meadowbrook began the slow process of healing. The resolution of the case brought a sense of closure to Sarah's family, who had endured unimaginable pain and loss. They took solace in knowing that justice had been served, even as they continued to mourn the absence of their beloved daughter and grandchild. Emily Carter, grappling with the betrayal and the loss of her husband, sought support from friends and family as she navigated the difficult path ahead. The once stable foundation of her life had been shattered, and she faced the daunting task of rebuilding from the ruins. For the residents of Meadowbrook, the crime left an indelible mark on their collective consciousness. The sense of safety and trust that had defined their community was now tainted by the memory of the tragedy. Vigils and support groups provided a space for people to come together, share their grief, and begin the process of healing. However, despite the resolution of the case, several questions remained unanswered. What had driven Daniel to commit such a violent act? Were there warning signs that had been overlooked? Could the tragedy have been prevented if different choices had been made? These lingering questions served as a reminder of the complexities of human behavior and the consequences of actions driven by fear and desperation. As we reflect on this tragic story, we are reminded of the fragile nature of trust and the devastating impact of betrayal. The tale of Daniel, Sarah, and Emily is a stark illustration of how hidden secrets and unchecked emotions can lead to unimaginable consequences. It is a story that will be remembered in Meadowbrook for years to come, a somber chapter in the town's history that underscores the importance of honesty, empathy, and understanding in our relationships. As we conclude this narrative, we invite you to share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. What lessons can be learned from this tragedy? How can we prevent similar events in the future? Join the conversation, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories. In conclusion, the tragic story of Daniel Carter, Emily Carter, and Sarah Mitchell is one that will remain etched in the memories of Meadowbrook's residents for years to come. It began with the seemingly perfect life of a dedicated law enforcement officer and his supportive wife, only to be shattered by an affair that introduced a volatile mix of emotions and deception. Sarah, a young woman seeking a fresh start, found herself entangled in a web of lies that ultimately led to her untimely death and the loss of her unborn child. The investigation revealed the extent of Daniel's double life, driven by fear, desperation, and a misguided sense of control. The forensic evidence, witness statements, and expert analysis painted a clear picture of the events leading up to the crime. The trial, a significant event for the community, resulted in a guilty verdict and a life sentence for Daniel, ensuring that justice was served. Throughout this narrative, we explored the emotional impact on the victims' families and the community, shedding light on the human side of this tragedy. The story of Daniel, Sarah, and Emily serves as a stark reminder of the complexities of human relationships and the devastating consequences of betrayal and unchecked emotions. As we reflect on this tale, we are left with lingering questions about the psychological factors that drove Daniel to commit such a heinous act and the warning signs that may have been missed. What do you think drove Daniel Carter to commit such a heinous act? Were there warning signs that could have been heeded to prevent this tragedy? How can we better understand the pressures faced by individuals in high-stress professions like law enforcement to avoid similar occurrences in the future? We invite you to share your thoughts and reflections in the comments below. Your insights and perspectives are valuable as we continue to explore the complexities of this case and seek to learn from it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel for more true crime stories. Join us as we uncover the hidden truths, examine the motives, and engage into the darker aspects of human nature in our ongoing quest for understanding and justice. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for our next gripping true crime story.